Welcome to the Georg Rockall-Schmidt Show. This week, with Halloween around the corner, we've decided we're going to Halloweenify, or spookify, some beloved children's movies. Damien, were you ever a child?
No. I was born a miserable old bastard.
Right. Have you ever caught any children in your beard?
Oh
I imagine most people listening to this won't know what you look like. Describe your appearance.
Well,
beard, 8 foot all around.
like, 80-inch chest, 100-inch waist.
Oh, wow.
Bedridden.
I imagine with your enormous beard, it's kind of like this mountain of a furball walking down the street. I suppose you don't walk down the street. I suppose you kind of just gust.
Yeah, no, I really kind of avoid the outdoors where possible. The only way this is possible is I have my nurse, suspend the mic over my face. Try to keep lying down most times.
Bingo Wings, the movie. Can Bingo Wings escape from Bingo Wings, or will Bingo Wings Bingo Wings? All right, okay, so let's get straight into it. What if Shrek wasn't an ogre that lived in the swamp, but just a deformed man ostracized by medieval society? Donkey is an oaf who was kicked in the head by a donkey. I've got a bit of a story about that. And has limited mental capacity. The princess is an extraneous royal who is very ugly. Shrek and Donkey rescues the princess and are thanked by the kingdom, and Shrek and the princess are allowed to live in isolation. The end. The film explores issues of isolation and social pressure and the ultimate meaninglessness of existence. Shrek 2 is about how Shrek deals with Donkey's suicide, especially as Donkey wrote a very long goodbye about his torturous existence.
Oh my god.
Happy Halloween!
Yeah, that's fucking atrocious.
Okay, so my story... Okay, so obviously I say Donkey is an oaf who was kicked in the head by a donkey. That's why it's called Donkey. Right?
There was some chilling foreshadowing there. You said you had a story about that.
I do have a story about that. When I was in St. Lucia, I met this guy that everyone called Moo Moo, and obviously that wasn't his name. I don't know. I imagine his name was Richard. But Moo Moo couldn't speak because when Moo Moo was about 8 years old, a coconut had fallen and hit his head. And he could speak like that. He could only do that.
Oh God.
He was perfectly able in every other regard. I saw him driving a 4x4. They're hard to drive.
You're good to qualify that.
He's married and he has 2 children. So he was fine, but he lost his ability to speak.
Wow, that's bizarre.
Yeah, and St. Lucia, it has hospitals, it has access to doctors and things like that. It wasn't, I don't know. Well, I don't know the details, but how sad.
Yeah, no, that's it's bizarre hearing something. I've heard people make light of stories like that, but really kind of be quite reductive about it. Like whoever sustained the head injury is just, what would the word be? But just
fucked.
Yeah, just a little invalid, I suppose. Is that? Yeah, but the idea, the notion it's just affected his speech center. That's really, so that's quite bizarre.
Yeah, I met him in a bar. He was drinking a beer. He would write things down, and he was, there was nothing wrong with him. He just couldn't speak. He had a job. Wow,
there you go.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me move on to something a little more fun. Shrek is a well-meaning ogre who just wants to be left alone. However, like all ogres, he needs to eat a child every 7 years to prevent himself from going mad and potentially doing more damage.
It's a good read as well. Potentially.
I imagine that Shrek doesn't eat a child and then ends up eating many of the childs.
He abstains for a long time. He wrestles with the good within him, but ultimately that battle is lost.
He's desperate not to eat children. He's a good guy, but he's an ogre. Ogres have to eat kids.
Yeah, it's not like an addiction or anything like that. He doesn't have a monkey on his back. It's more like a, biological sustenance. There's nothing else that will, fortify and sustain him. This is his existence. He must do it. It's not necessarily in. He's evolved to a point where it's no longer in his nature. He can, he understands that, living amongst these humans that it's by them regarded as completely abhorrent, but he can't turn his back on the fact that without eating these children, he will die.
He will die, yeah, and yeah, he will go mad as well. First, it will be an agonizing death.
Oh God, yes, no, it's not a light road.
Do you have one?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the first things that popped into my head is Monsters Inc. I mean, one of the crux of that movie is, one of the crux is that the child is kidnapped, and this society of monsters, it runs on this energy generated by beasting children. Or did you say feasting children?
I meant to say feasting on children, but then I think I tried to say fisting children.
Well, it would also be quite a nightmare of a fucking movie. I mean, that's the best way to get a child to scream, don't you? Don't you think? Have you not found this?
How do you make power through fisting a child? Dude, did you not fucking listen? This is a magic world. Every time we fist a child, it makes... Oh, fucking hell.
Every time they pull their hand out, this magical glitter comes out, which they must put into containment.
This is taking a turn for the worse. Did I ever tell you about that guy I used to sit next to in maths?
Did he fist children?
No, he said I didn't know him. He was really weird, and I was just sat there, and he was like doing his equations. He was like, "Oh, can I borrow your pencil sharpener?" Yeah, there you go. Starts sharpening his pencil, gives it me back. Silence for another 5 minutes. Like, "Oh, what did you get for this?" Blah blah blah. And then like this silence for 5 minutes, and he says, "Fisting my girlfriend last night."
And of course, the natural follow-up was,
I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I was just doing a bit of fisting with my girlfriend last night." And I said, I was 15. He was 15. I said, "Didn't that hurt?" And he said, "No, it's all right. I put a bit of lube on my knuckles." No, didn't it hurt her? And he said,
"Oh, man, it hurts so much. Look at these blisters."
He said, "Yeah, because his girlfriend was a tree." He said, "No, why would it hurt her?" And I said, "Well, your fist is bigger than a baby's head, and it really hurts when a baby comes out." And he stood up in front of the class and said, "Everybody listen, George thinks that babies come out of a woman's pussy." And he was adamant that babies come out of your belly button.
Oh my God, what a fucking troglodyte. But on the plus side, if he's, fisting the anus. Did he say fisting anus, or did I just put that in my...
You just put that in there. I never mentioned anus, yes.
Right, okay. Well, if he's fisting, there's, it does kind of suggest that he won't be breeding anytime soon. So we can kind of, count that blessing.
Well, he wasn't fisting his own anus. Have you ever heard the phrase hard reset?
No, I have not heard of a hard reset.
I think that's what we should do right now.
Explain the concept.
The monsters are kidnapping children. For what reason?
No, so Boo was kidnapped in this movie for the sake of having Scream extracted out of her. So I think in terms of when it comes to Halloweenifying, that I don't think it should be. I think it should just be about these children just simply being abducted left, right, and center. Everyone, it turns out that Lizard's plan was really successful, and it does actually save their economy and their society in turn. So they jump on that with both feet. And it's not so much set in the world of the monsters; it's set in the human world, where there's just a spate of abductions, and they just cannot figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, never mind. I think we move on pretty quickly.
Well, many traditional fairy tales have a kind of scary element. Did you know that in Sleeping Beauty, in the original fairy tale, someone finds Sleeping Beauty, and the story is, you wake these people up, like in Snow White. You wake up a sleeping woman by kissing her.
Yes.
Right? That's sexual harassment, right? Really.
Okay.
You can't just be kissing people. Well, in the original Sleeping Beauty fairy tale, the guy probably kissed her, but he also impregnated her while she was sleeping.
This isn't a joke. This is true, right?
This is in the fairy tale, the original fairy tale. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. You know, in Cinderella and in the story, obviously not the Disney story, but in the story, the sisters, the stepsisters, want to get the glass slipper on to prove that they were the woman dancing with the prince. You know
Yes.
what I'm talking
of course.
about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, their feet are too big, so they start to cut off their toes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that one's quite well known, I think.
I had never heard that. That's fucking bizarre. Oh, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff, like especially stuff that comes from Grimm,
It's in the name.
It's in the name. Yeah, it's Grimm.
I'm very sketchy on the details, but I did hear like the story of Red Riding Hood was something to do.
It's meant to be about rape.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Did Bancroft tell you that?
I can't remember.
He told us that, and he was like, "It's about rape. Don't go into the woods or you'll be raped." So you're enjoying saying rape too much.
Of course. Out there, that's the woods. If you go there, it's rape.
Yeah, because actually, if you go back to the original text of Red Riding Hood, it's like, and that's why you don't go into the woods, because if you're not careful, a wolf will eat you and your tuppence right up.
That's horrid. I mean, the implication is horrific, of course, but you used the most disgusting word. I hate that. Tuppence. Ah.
All right, how about this? Toy Story.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's pretty good.
Toy Story. Instead of Andy getting a Buzz Lightyear doll for his birthday, he gets another Woody doll. New Woody insists on being called Woody and is very much like Woody, except that he's not quite as shy and is far more devious. Original Woody has been cultivating his relationship with Bo Peep for years, but in days, New Woody is both ploughing her and cheating on her.
Sorry, does New Woody have a goatee by any chance?
No, New Woody looks identical in every way. New Woody becomes the sheriff and is liked by everyone, even more than Woody was. Eventually, old Woody jumps into a waste disposal unit and everyone forgets he ever existed. With Andy and his mum sure there was only ever one Woody.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's inspired by Dostoevsky.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, it's a different direction. I figured you were going to say...
Them toys get rapey. That's what you thought I was going to say, didn't you?
Them toys get fisty.
Woody's got like a really fat head.
I'd love to see that movie. He's got this massively swollen head, and all you see him do is run. It's like these over-the-shoulder shots, like 80% of this movie. You see these people running away from him. And you just see him dive up people's assholes as they're running away screaming from him. He just works his way in there every time. You never see it. It's always implied, of course. It's not completely tasteless
He
movie.
buries himself in people's asses. What? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Did you think the bit in Toy Story 3 with the incinerator was full on or what?
I know a lot of people say that. I mean, I like Toy Story 3 enough, but I wouldn't say it was full on.
It was terrifying. That's one of the most terrifying scenes I've ever seen in a children's movie.
I wouldn't use the word terrifying, but the moment where you see the horse, the horse struggling, trying to climb
Bruno.
up. Bruno?
Well, no, now I'm just thinking of fucking Borat's penis.
Of course you are. The natural progression from Woody jumping in people's assholes.
It's Bullseye.
Oh, there we go.
You've corrupted me. I wanted this to be a PG podcast.
Of course you did. Yeah, that's exactly how you pitched it to me. Damon, we should definitely do a podcast. We've got such safe banter. The kids will love it. But yeah, no. I did the moment where Bullseye is struggling against the tide of rubbish, and Jessie just kind of puts her hand on him and just like calms him. I always thought that was pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah. It's like It's like you're in a fucking gas chamber and people have just realised what's going to happen, and then in the next 8 seconds they're going to be dead, and they know they can't do anything, so why struggle? That's what it is, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
seriously, yeah. I mean, I like that they put it in, but I don't know. I think that if I was a kid and I saw that, that would be one of those things that definitely stayed with me.
Yeah,
I remember
without a shadow of a doubt. Actually, I remember like a couple of the moments from The Simpsons, which stayed with me for God knows how long.
What's wrong, son? And then his face starts to melt off his face. Face starts to melt off his face.
I think I was old enough to kind of process that a little bit better. But the one that always stuck with me was one where Bart trashes Lisa's centerpiece for Thanksgiving. I think it's season 2.
Oh yeah, and then
he comes back to the house. He's at the front door and he imagines what it's like when he comes in and makes his apology and all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of starts spiraling, and everyone gets kind of got like all these kind of Dutch angles and stuff like that, and the colors just flush out red and all these, and everyone's blaming it's all your fault, and it's that.
It gets louder and louder.
Yeah. And he starts begging, and he's crying. And that stayed with me as a kid. I remember that for a long, long time.
Is it the pilot of The Simpsons where Marge sings the lullaby to Maggie and it's like, rock-a-bye baby in the treetop, and then Maggie imagines herself falling from a broken bough? Yeah, I mean that's scary.
Yeah, particularly the final shot where the camera like flies into her mouth when she's all
screaming,
the while she's she's got that pacifier, and I seem to remember just that last moment she lets go and you just see her screaming. That's horrible.
Have you ever seen Great Expectations?
No, I haven't.
So there's a scene in that where Mrs. Havisham dies. She catches on fire, and that just fucking terrified me as a kid, because all you kind of see it a little bit, but you hear this wailing, and Pip is walking down the stairs and he thinks she's crying, so he doesn't do anything at first, and then he realizes these are screams of pain and fear, and he runs back up, and then he has to put her out, but she's dead. Oh, it's awful.
Ugh.
It's horrible, and she the screaming is just something else.
I mean, what production is this? There must be a million of them. I mean,
okay, it's the one from 1946 with John Mills.
Oh, right, okay.
All right, so getting back to it, this is a really short one. Wally is assigned with recycling all of the garbage left on Earth, including the human survivors.
Was it an epilogue to Soylent Green or something like that?
It's exactly that. It's an epilogue to Soylent Green. There's no... he gains humanity. He loves dancing and stuff, but he still sees these humans as garbage.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. He's a much more longer lasting and therefore more advanced life form.
Yeah. He's also like 175 feet tall.
Yeah, there's a massive gap of like 50 years where Wally has been, upgrading himself.
He looks the same. He looks like a cute Johnny Five, but he is massive.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Terrifying.
I mean, wherever he goes, the tracks are, like 8 feet deep.
Oh,
taller than a man.
Yeah, and again, it's not a precursor to the events of the movie. He's waited until the Earth, he's had that wonderful adventure. The Earth is repopulated.
They fucked it up again.
No. Things are perfectly congenial. He just went into hiding. There were still scraps that he made use of, but he went off and did his own thing. Came back, decimated them.
Yeah, he was hungry for garbage.
And it's too clean. No,
I mean, Wally's kind of horrific because the implication is that more than 99% of the human race died.
Yeah. I think there should just be, there could be like a director's cut and the first half an hour of the movie where he's just doing his...
He's just compressing skeletons.
Well, no, it's not nowhere near as on the nose as that, but when he is ferreting through all the garbage, you just see bones everywhere. I mean, like, everything looks like fucking Rupture Farms.
Maybe that's Wall-E 2. Maybe Wall-E 2 is like everyone, the humans land. Jeff from Curb Your Enthusiasm starts kind of walking around and telling people what to do and stuff. And then the post-humans turn up. And Wally's like, oh, yeah, the post-humans. Yeah, they don't need to drink water or eat food. And they are sustained completely by the rays of the sun or some shit like that. And they're just fucking barbarians.
Yeah. And unlike, obviously, the well, the very obese humans that come back, these fuckers are incredibly lean, you know.
Yeah.
They're little in number, but they are hunters. They are predators, and
The reason they're little, the reason they're little in number is you can only become a man in their tribe if you kill 50 other men.
you have to consume your parents.
Okay, let's move on. Elsa thinks she's special until she's reminded of the woman's place in 13th century wherever. She ends up in a convent, doomed to eternal spinsterhood.
I myself have not. I couldn't pretend to actually have seen the movie, so. But
I suppose if we really want to Halloweenify movies, we could just do that to anything, couldn't we? It's Rapunzel, but with loads of rape.
All right, so yeah, we'll nip this one in the bud right here. I think we're not going to say that there's a definitive. We have a favorite here, or there's a route to go, but we have settled on the formula. All right, so you know that dildo that they had in Seven, right?
Cinderella is a good-natured girl with an unsympathetic stepmother. She works for her stepmother in near slave-like conditions for her entire life. But after her death, those that mistreated her start to themselves die in gruesome ways.
Elaborate. What are these gruesome ways? Now that, you know, Cinderella has married the prince.
I've just thought of one, right?
Okay.
I had a friend who worked as an undertaker. You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Go on.
I had a friend who worked as an undertaker, and he said one of the most difficult things he had to do was explain to a family how their son died, because their son had been fucking himself at the top of some stairs with a broomstick.
Oh, fuck, this is horrific.
And he'd fallen down the stairs, and the broomstick had gone right up him.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So maybe that.
What, they all do that? Like, what, ritualistically at the same time, or is there kind of... Or is there a time frame here?
I'm not thinking of it being sexual. I'm thinking of it like maybe someone falls down the stairs and there's a broomstick stuck up or something. But I don't know.
Well, we have to, you know, you're very clear on the asshole and the fucking part. So, I mean, we can't ignore that. You can't just fall down the stairs with a broom in your hand and it'll end up in your asshole. I mean, that's...
I didn't say it would be in your hand, but someone else is brooming.
So someone else is brooming, So what?
All right, okay. You fall off the balcony. As you fall, your belt comes undone. It's perfectly normal. It doesn't mean you're gay.
So what happens? They're at the top of the stairs. They fall, right? Their ankle goes, but they kind of do like a roly-poly, as it were. So someone's at the bottom of the stairs, right? One of the evil stepsisters. And how long after the events of Cinderella is this? Is this a couple of months, or, you know, are they in their final years? You know,
no, I'd say this is like a couple of months. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But yeah, so they it's not sexual, but they happen to fall down the stairs as like one of their replacement Cinderella, their new maid, is sweeping.
Can you imagine going into a fucking meeting and saying it's not sexual, but but one of the characters falls arse first onto a broomstick?
I think that's how I started my defense in a disciplinary I had at work, but more on that another day.
Was that the one where they told you to get a wash?
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
Oh. Okay, so we've got the broomstick for one, so that means we've got one more and the stepmother. The stepmother has to be last. So the other one, I think that she gets septicemia.
Okay.
No, I don't know. It has to be gruesome, and it has to be kind of instant, right? It has to be like Final Destination.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking that, but I don't know. We say septicemia, I kind of like the idea of gangrene or something, you know. She's the first to get injured.
She dies of diabetes.
No, I just say I quite like gangrene. She's the first to sustain any injury in this movie, and right. it seems relatively minor.
She goes mad, and she's like, I hate Cinderella, and she smashes the glass slipper. She just gets a tiny cut on her finger, and she thinks nothing of it. And that's how she gets gangrene.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like, so Cinderella has married the prince. She essentially lives in wealth and power now.
No, Cinderella's dead.
What?
Cinderella's dead.
Cinderella's dead.
What? Yes, Cinderella's dead. What?
What?
Cinderella's a good-natured girl with an unsympathetic stepmother. She works for her stepmother in near slave-like conditions for her entire life, but after her death... Those that mistreated her start to die in gruesome ways. Why would we want to kill these people if Cinderella's still alive?
Okay.
Cinderella becomes the princess and is like, I'm going to eliminate my previous family, and
that's kind of what I was. Yeah, that was the angle I was going for. She lived.
It's a power play.
Yeah. Or rather, the first stepsister who contracts this gangrene has always had.
We'll call her Condoleezza.
Okay, Condoleezza has her suspicions. There's a lot of guilt and fear in that household after Cinderella kind of leaves and kind of graduates to the highest echelons in this society. She has the money and the power. They're just hoping that she has the good graces to ignore all the horrible treatment of her for decades up until this point.
Right, they're frightened.
Yeah.
Frightened.
So this first Condoleezza, she cuts herself, and it starts with a fever at first, and she reckons it's some kind of curse or some not curse, but some kind of something underhand at the
bewitchery.
Why not? There's been enough fucking fairy tale magic that got her up the ladder. So she reckons that Cinderella has also leaned on her fairy godmother to punish her stepsisters. So she becomes incredibly paranoid.
Right.
It's at this point that she starts seeing her mother, her sisters, what have you, before tragic fates, and she's absolutely convinced that it's Cinderella.
But really, it's the second stepsister, Nikki Ninja. Right?
That is a fantastic. Why? It's not even worth questioning. Yes, Nikki Ninja. Yeah. As her condition worsens, she goes to confront Cinderella. Right. She's the last one standing, and she's barely. She's being wheeled about. And she finds out. It's all merely coincidence. It's all been in her head. It's just been her descent into madness.
That's it. It's just this psychological horror.
Yeah, psychological horror.
No, but she has to die, and we have to get rid of the other two.
Oh yeah, no, but she watches. Her sisters, the rest of the family die, but she's convinced it's all connected. It's all okay. It's all a coincidence.
Right, I see. So the first sister goes mad, right?
Yeah.
And then the second sister dies from the broomstick. Nikki Ninja dies from the broomstick.
Yeah.
And then how does stepmother Alopecia die?
Alopecia. Doesn't seem gratuitous enough, but like a falling chandelier which completely eviscerates her. I think if you have the right shot of her being rent of all the shattered glass from this, like a truly ornate chandelier, is fucking huge.
Right. And Rodney and Delboy are at the top.
I had this bizarre inkling that you might say that. Well, we pulled that one out the bag.
Alopecia is crushed by a chandelier. I think it should be kind of like she doesn't die, and it's like, call for the doctor. She's terribly ill, and the doctor comes, and he's like, fucking hell, what is this? This is this mangled woman. She's got hours left. Like, should I make her comfortable, or should I put her out of her misery now? And it's just very clear that she's in a great deal of pain, and then she dies.
Yeah. I would think that would be creepy enough. One of Kenny's deaths in South Park in season 2 or whatever, which kind of really creeped me out. I mean, a lot of them were really, really gratuitous, but the episode where they had chickenpox, I thought was always quite fucked up. Because right at the end, Kenny's in a hospital bed with chickenpox, and then he's laughing away with the rest of them, and he just dies for no reason. And I always thought that was fucking creepy. Right, more so than seeing him decapitated or eviscerated or anything like that. I think it should be like that. She just dies inexplicably. Not inexplicably. She's very, very ill, but
yeah, she's very ill, and it's she wouldn't die straight away from that. Probably it would take a while, and then so you're left with Condoleezza, who is mad and thinks this is all connected, and just dies by doesn't die for 40 years, and she just kind of lives in a room, and she just has a terrible life because she's so fucked in the head.
Yes, yeah. I mean, she still lives in the family manor for 40 years, and it's just, I think we're going back into kind of Havisham territory, but she becomes this recluse, shut-in, just completely batshit insane. Mm-hmm. Like Cinderella.
Then she designs the world's biggest plane, with the longest wingspan.
Yeah, she's got Kleenex boxes.
No, I was just about to say tissue boxes, yeah.
Okay, so we got Cinderella in the bag. That's it. You find out when it jumps to the last the last few days of her life, that Cinderella died like 20 years ago. Again, also tragically, she
in
consumption
a
or something
horse
like
crash
that.
accident.
She was paralyzed from the neck down for many years.
No, she was visiting another country, on a mission, and her carriage was being driven very fast in a tunnel, and it crashed into one of the pillars, and that was it.
Yeah, she was taken out by Hans Gruber. And what squad was he with?
He was with Hellboy.
Oh, that was it. There we go. It writes itself after a while.
The more we talk about this, the more I feel ashamed. Okay, so the last thing I've got is a bit horrible.
Okay.
Unlike everything else we've just said. Snow White is a deceitful and narcissistic minor royal who is exiled for her attempts on the throne and dubious palace intrigue. She is banished to a remote forest to live with 7 dwarves, entrusted with keeping her in check because it's well known the stockier you are, the more trustworthy you are. Which is why George Costanza was such a stand-up guy. But Snow White ends up playing the dwarves against each other by strategically granting the dwarves sexual favours and playing favourites. Eventually she gets the dwarves to sack and extort outlying villages and essentially establishes her own fiefdom. She executes Grumpy for speaking out, humiliates and breaks Doc, the dwarf leader, by making him her gimp, and puts Dopey in the stocks permanently for her own amusement. The remaining dwarves become terrified of her and a tool of her oppressive micro-regime. The film ends with Prince Charming trapping Snow White and the dwarves in Snow White's keep and burning it down. The last shot is of Dopey still in the stocks, the flames of the fire lighting his face and reflecting in his eyes, as the screams and pleas for quick death from Snow White and the other dwarves peter out and are replaced only by the sounds of fire. Fade to black.
Damn, that's horrible. Well, I'm not gonna shit on that. That needs to be made. Oh, I like the image in the stocks. That's something else. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it could be kind of horrible because the implication is obviously that Prince Charming has. I always want to say Prince Charles. The implication could be that Prince Charming has left Dopey in the stocks.
Yes, yeah.
Presumably to die.
Oh, without easy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that episode of Thomas the Tank Engine where one of the trains gets bricked up in a tunnel?
It sounds vaguely reminiscent, yeah.
That was something as a kid I was terrified of.
Oh.
There was an episode of the Moomins as well where they bricked someone into a cave or something.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was really upsetting. Fucking Moomins. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Thank you very much for joining us. Next time we'll be discussing what the Planet of the Apes would be without the apes. So, again, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
There's going to be like 3 minutes of this.
Yeah. It'll be on the board. Is it the bonus materials you put on the other?
The bonus material is just 5 minutes of us saying goodbye from different episodes.
Yeah. Because you just won't take the hint otherwise. It's a live stream.
It's a live stream.
Okay, goodbye. There's only one loop at like the 13 hour mark.